John is alive and well.
You mean you didn't kill him? Oh, Steffi, thank you!
Karaoke bars are a tribute to the power of popular song. So this soap opera karaoke bar in New York City testifies to the power of popular television. But in the late 90s, all of us, whether we know it or not, are living out a kind of soap karaoke. Watching any kind of television, including even the news, we are following the lines of soap opera. The way in which people see the world was affected first by nature and then by religion. Now our worldview is most influenced by television. And as the techniques of the never-ending story have spread through all fiction and then into factual shows, the dramatic serial has become the template against which we measure reality. From war to royal divorces, all news stories seem to be consumed and produced as soap opera.
Soap has kind of pushed all the boundaries and lots of public life. I mean, whether we're talking about the royal family or politicians, we see it as a soap opera that's presented to us. I mean, we talk about the royals as just this ongoing soap because they're a family, because there's sort of the major characters, the minor characters, because they get involved in one scrape after another.
In respect of Matthew Rose, on the count of manslaughter.
Guilty.
No! He's innocent! My son is innocent! You call this justice?
I think the model of the trial is very interesting. I mean, because what is clearly happening, very purely in soap opera, is that people are judging. When researchers ask soap viewers, what are they doing? They're saying, so-and-so should do this, so-and-so was bad to do that, so-and-so was selfless and good to do that. It's a very classic relationship with fiction.
Two of the biggest plot lines in late 20th century soaps are a murder and the subsequent trial. When in 1994, sports star turned actor O.J. Simpson was tried for the killing of his ex-wife and her friend, the confusion between news and soap became absolute. Simpson's defense counsel, including Johnny Cochran, even seemed alert to the narrative rhythms of daytime drama.
It was more soap opera than a soap opera. All the way to the main character getting off. I mean, we all suspected that O.J. committed the crime, and many people in soaps commit crimes for which they never pay because they're very popular characters and they don't want to get rid of them.
So it became the real soap opera that America became transfixed by.
And because they did have those Good Friday tags. The Glove came out on a Friday. Yeah. One of the prosecutors had a heart attack on a Friday. It was almost as if they were planning. In fact, I did Johnny Cochran's television show. He has a television show here. And I said to him, you know, you really, stole our thunder with your Friday tags. And he said jokingly, I think, well, we sort of planned some of it that way. Now, I'll never know for sure. Knowing Johnny, he might have. Very dramatic. But it was, that affected daytime. We've never really recovered from the O.J. trial.
We, the jury, in the above entitled action, find the defendant, Orenthal James Simpson, not guilty of the crime of murder.
Fittingly, the Simpson coverage had replaced the daytime soaps in the network schedules. But when the fictional shows came back, their audiences were down. Audiences now wanted stories with the shape of daily dramas, but with higher stakes. Life was stranger than soap.
What goes on inside a courtroom, which is a serious place. I mean, you're discussing people's lives, people's futures, and that it basically turns it into a soap opera and turns it into entertainment, which a courtroom should never be.
First time I ever looked into his eyes close up and was with him alone, I saw somebody totally different than I had expected to see.
America's national crisis storyline of 1998, when Monica Lewinsky almost caused Bill Clinton to be written out of the White House, seemed to be played and watched according to the rules of soap. The entire plot relied on a character behaving with improbable recklessness.
I'm going to say this again.
Lines spoken in one episode.
I did not have sexual relations with that woman, Miss Lewinsky.
Were sensationally contradicted in another.
I engaged in conduct that was wrong.
There were goodies, baddies.
The facts will come out and the truth will come out eventually.
And ludicrous plot twists. Building to a cliffhanger which threatened the character's continuation in the story.
The prospect of impeachment proceedings against President Clinton has now moved a step closer.
Clinton might see himself as a victim of the cross-infection of all TV screens by soap opera, encouraging the media to concentrate on scandal. But I believe that Clinton was in fact saved by soap opera. Pundits were astonished that he could survive such revelations. Was it electoral apathy? Was it moral tolerance? For me, the real reason lies in the form of narrative which voters now know best. In a soap opera storyline or arc, the character is subjected to a period of high drama, but when the arc is finished, they return to normal, as if nothing had happened. Americans seem to have accepted Lewinsky as an arc in Clinton's story. Far more subtly than cynics believe, people really do see politics as soap opera.
I can't imagine life without her.
If I don't see her each day, I miss her. Gee, what a...
If soap opera gave Clinton an unrealized advantage, a previous American president had been the first leading politician to use the genre's techniques openly in campaign commercials. But contemporary politicians have used not merely the storytelling methods of the form, but the stories themselves. The only pub Margaret Thatcher ever campaigned in was the fictional Rover's Return. And in 1998, Tony Blair intervened in the case of a high-profile prisoner.
It doesn't happen often, but, you know, like, there was 30 or 40,000 people with free Deirdre Rashid stickers on their car, so, I mean...
Yeah. And the Prime Minister was prepared to ask questions on the floor. The press office phoned up, and the day they phoned up to say they needed to prepare for the Prime Minister's question time was, unfortunately, April the 1st. So it took us a lot of convincing to actually discover that indeed it was Downing Street that were phoning up. But,
to ask for the history of Deirdre. I think that was what they...
Yeah, I think the line was the Prime Minister, of course, because he has connections with Coronation Street. Unfortunately, with his tight schedule, doesn't quite have the time to follow the complete ins and outs of the Deirdre.
Could he have her life history?
Could he be refreshed?
But at least Blair didn't insist on having his life rewritten into a daily soap opera, as did the Malaysian premiere. In India, opposition politicians signed up the actress playing the goddess Sita in the Hindu epic Ramayana, seeking political benefit from the fact that many of the show's 650 million viewers apparently believed her to be a reincarnation of the deity. The actress Deepika was persuaded to run for parliament in the general election of 1991.
BJP offered me the ticket, and I kept refusing. They kept offering, and I kept refusing, and one fine day I said, okay, I'll take it. And that's it. I filed a nomination, and I was the candidate.
Deepika, or perhaps the goddess Sita, won the seat for the opposition with a margin of over 15%. In Britain, the Tory party tried to use soap to wash away the memory of the 1997 election defeat.
1:30.
The instance of Tony Blair campaigning to free Deirdre Rashid, or Margaret Thatcher propping up the bar in the adorning the bar in the Rover's Return, I think is testimony to the fact that people do understand that a soap opera reaches people in an easy, shorthand, quick fix kind of way, and that yes, it's potentially a fantastic vehicle for communication.
I don't know why she doesn't go private.
Because someone, not a million miles from here, told her that his mate Tony Blair promised a quicker treatment under Labour.
Look, I told you before, he's not my mate. Now,
and that was the aim of Chris and Debbie, you know, meet these two people, Chris and Debbie. They're not going to turn to camera and say, you know, and the Conservative Party is the answer to all our prayers, because that would be to defy the whole point of having that as a vehicle. What they are going to do, however, is game out the arguments that you might reasonably have over in the first broadcast a kitchen table, in the second broadcast a bedroom on a Saturday or Sunday morning, without it being, I'd never discussed the single European currency in the bedroom with my wife on a Saturday morning. It's the balance between credibility, titillation and credibility, really.
What is it you've got against soap operas?
I'm a snob. It's brainless, you know.
So what is it? Do you think it's a waste of time for people to be watching soap operas?
Well, it's so repetitious, you know.
But for all its power, soap still lacks prestige. Some populist forms, Hollywood movies, detective novels, have come to be taken seriously by critics, but a soap habit remains a source of guilt.
We had some very funny and interesting stories of women who say when they get a call during a soap opera, they will turn the sound down so that when they pick up the phone, no one knows that they're watching the soap opera. This is extremely different from nighttime television viewing, where in our culture it is not only allowed but somewhat expected that after the workday everyone can engage in very mindless entertainment, quite frankly, and that's okay because you've done your workday and this is what you do in the evening. You're entertained and anything is okay on television. But the daytime should be productive time. So the idea that this must mean that you're stupid, lazy, and perhaps in some ways even lower class is still some of the stigma attached.
I'd been asked to be in Neighbours in the beginning, but as a young actor who had some sort of scruples and principles as to what he was trying to achieve with his art form, the last place I wanted to be was soap opera. Because from what I'd seen, it wasn't about a standard of acting, or it was just a genre that I was going to stay well clear of.
I had to fight my agents, my husband, my friends, everybody to get onto a soap opera. What do you want to do a soap opera for?
No, people watch them. They're absolutely gogglebox on them. What, 4 or 5 million to go at Coronation Street?
Or more than that. It's
more than that?
Yeah.
10 million?
18 million.
18 million, right, yes. God. Those poor buggers.
People come up to me and say, you're the reason I watch Neighbours. I think, well, don't blame me. Don't blame me. I'm sorry. Stop watching it then. It'll rot your brain. I say it to kids all the time.
I think if you're a man, you don't even admit that you watch this. You know, or if you do, it's because that's where I work in the evenings and I'm home during the day. It's what my wife likes to watch, so I'm forced to watch it. Meanwhile, there's probably 3 TVs in the house. You could watch anything you want. So men who are consciously choosing this form of entertainment, I don't think in our football culture are going around bragging that they are a soap opera viewer.
The stigma seems unlikely to diminish, for at the very peak of its hold over audiences and advertisers, soap was at its weakest artistically. As channels multiplied and controllers demanded ever higher ratings, the plot twists became more and more lurid. Residents of London squares or Lancashire terraces began to have lives out of Greek tragedy, Salford Electras, Cockney Oedipuses. In Channel 4's Brookside, a quiet residential estate which had already suffered 2 armed sieges and several murders, a flesh-eating killer virus now threatened to thin the cast.
Said this in